Your phone buzzes, again. You don't even want to look, but you do, because you can't help it. Another headline. Super El Niño, the strongest one since 1950. The strongest one anyone alive has ever seen. You put the phone down, you pick it up again. You scroll. You read the comments. You scroll more. Your heart is doing a little drum solo in your chest. The TV in the living room is on, the radio in the kitchen. Your mom just sent you 3 links. Your neighbor just texted, "Are you seeing this?" And now you're sitting there, terrified. Not because you're weak, not because you're dramatic, because the news is everywhere, and it's loud, and it's scary, and it's aimed right at you. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Being scared is not a character flaw. It's a completely normal reaction to a very loud, very scary situation. But here's the other thing nobody tells you. Being scared doesn't have to mean being stuck, because there's a difference between being scared and being paralyzed. And that difference? It's a few simple steps. Steps you can take right now. In your building, with the people around you. And I'm going to show you exactly what to do. Step by step, so the fear doesn't run your life. But first, let's talk about what almost everyone does when the panic hits. Because I promise you, you're not alone. And you're not crazy. Let's be honest about the 4 ways people react when the news terrifies them. And why each one makes it worse. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because these are the traps everyone falls into. Error number 1, the Doomscroll. This is the big one. You get the notification. You read the article. Then you read another one. Then you read the comments. Then you check the forecast. Then you read a Reddit thread about it. Then it's 2 in the morning and you know more about ocean temperatures than a marine biologist. I've been there. We've all been there. The doomscroll feels productive. It feels like you're doing something, like you're staying informed. But here's the truth. Scrolling is not preparing. Scrolling is just fear, feeding itself. The more you read, the more scared you get. And the more scared you get, the more you read. It's a loop, and the loop doesn't help you. It just keeps you up at night. Error number 2, the panic buy. This is the one where you decide you're going to fix the fear with stuff. Lots of stuff. You go to the store. You buy 40 gallons of water. You buy every battery in the aisle. You buy a generator. You buy a canoe. You don't even live near water, but you buy a canoe. Because the news made you feel like you should. And here's the problem. Panic buying doesn't calm you down. It just empties your wallet and fills your apartment with things you'll trip over for the next 5 years. The fear isn't about the stuff. The fear is about feeling out of control. And buying stuff doesn't give you control. It just gives you a very expensive pile of things. Error number 3, the silent spiral. This one is the sneakiest, because nobody sees it. You don't doomscroll. You don't panic buy. You just go quiet. You stop talking to your neighbors. You stop going to the hallway. You sit in your apartment, alone, with the news on repeat, and you let the fear grow in the dark. And here's the thing. Fear loves silence. Fear grows best when you're alone with it. The moment you say it out loud, to a neighbor, to a friend, to anyone, it gets smaller. But the silent spiral keeps it big, and big fears feel impossible to handle. Error number 4, the I'll handle it alone person. This is the one where you decide you're not going to bother anyone. You're going to be strong. You're going to figure it out by yourself. So you don't ask for help. You don't talk to the building. You don't check if there's a plan. You just quietly carry the fear alone. And here's the problem. Fear is heavy, and carrying it alone makes it heavier. Plus, you're missing out on the one thing that actually helps: other people. Because you're not supposed to handle this alone. Nobody is. So, those are the 4 traps: the Doomscroll, the panic buy, the silent spiral, the lone wolf, and if you've fallen into any of them, welcome to the human race. We've all been there. It's not weakness. It's just what happens when the news gets loud. But here's the good news. There's a way out, and it starts with something surprisingly simple. The opposite of fear isn't bravery. The opposite of fear is a plan. Let me tell you about a woman. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah lived in a building, a normal building, nothing special. And when the news about Super El Niño started getting loud, Sarah fell into every single trap. She doomscrolled. She read every article. She knew more about the Pacific Ocean than she knew about her own neighbors. Then she panic bought. She had 40 gallons of water in her hallway. She had a flashlight collection that would impress a cave explorer. She almost bought a canoe. She was this close. And then she went silent. She stopped talking to her neighbors. She stayed in her apartment alone with the news on repeat, letting the fear grow. And one night, she couldn't sleep. She was lying there, staring at the ceiling, heart racing, thinking about every worst-case scenario the internet had shown her. And then, at 2 in the morning, she did something that changed everything. She didn't buy more stuff. She didn't read another article. She didn't stay silent. She sent a message to her building's group chat. She wrote, "Hey, is anyone else feeling overwhelmed by all this news? Because I am, and I don't know what to do." And here's the beautiful, surprising thing. Within minutes, the replies started coming in. "I am too. I can't sleep either. I've been so anxious. I didn't want to say anything." And suddenly, Sarah wasn't alone anymore, and that was the first step. Step 1, say it out loud. Here's the thing about fear. It's loud in your head, but it shrinks the moment you say it out loud. Sarah said it out loud to her building, and the moment she did, 2 things happened. First, she felt lighter, because the fear wasn't just hers anymore. Second, she found out she wasn't alone, because everyone else was scared too. They were just hiding it. So the first step is simple. Don't suffer in silence. Say it out loud, to a neighbor, to a friend, to the group chat. Fear shared is fear halved. That's not a slogan. That's just how it works. Step 2, turn fear into a checklist. Here's what Sarah did next. She didn't try to solve the whole scary future. She made a tiny list, a checklist. Just a few small things. Water. A few bottles, not 40 gallons. Just enough for a couple of days. Flashlight, check yours. Make sure it works. Power bank. Charge it. That's it. A plan for staying informed. Pick one reliable source. Check it twice a day. Not all day. Twice. And here's the magic. Each checkbox was a tiny win. And each tiny win made the fear a little smaller. Because here's the thing about fear. It doesn't like checklists. Fear is vague and big and formless. But a checklist is specific and small and doable. And the moment you turn your fear into a checklist, you take the power back. Step 3, make it a building thing, not a you thing. Here's where it gets good. Sarah didn't stop at her own checklist. She shared it. She posted her little list in the group chat, and she asked, "Does anyone want to do this together?" And the building said yes. Someone offered to be the info person. Someone else said they had extra flashlights. The guy who almost bought a canoe turned out to be really good at organizing. Go figure. And here's the beautiful part. When you prepare together, you don't just prepare, you connect. And connection is the best anti-fear medicine there is, because the news is the same for everyone. But facing it together is completely different from facing it alone. Step 4. Give yourself permission to step away. This is the one nobody talks about, and it's important. Sarah realized she didn't have to watch the news all day. She didn't have to read every article. She gave herself permission to step away, to turn off the TV, to put down the phone, to check the news twice a day, and then live her life. And here's the thing, stepping away isn't denial. It's not pretending nothing's happening. It's the opposite. It's saying, I've done my checklist, I'm prepared, and now I don't need to be scared all day. Because being prepared and being terrified are two different things. And you can be prepared without being terrified. And by the end of that week, Sarah was different. She still knew the news. She still had her water and her flashlight. But she wasn't lying awake at night. She was sleeping. She was talking to her neighbors. She was part of a building that had turned fear into a plan. The fear hadn't disappeared. It had just shrunk to a size she could handle. And that's the real secret. You don't have to stop being scared. You just have to make the fear small enough to live with. And you do that with a plan, and a checklist, and other people. So here's your takeaway. When the news is everywhere, and your heart is racing, don't doomscroll. Don't panic buy. Don't go silent. And don't try to handle it alone. Instead, say it out loud. Turn your fear into a tiny checklist. Make it a building thing, and give yourself permission to step away from the news. Because the opposite of fear isn't bravery. It's a plan, and you can make a plan. You really can. And here's the thing I want you to remember most. Being scared doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Every single person in your building is feeling something right now. And the ones who seem calm, they're not calm because they're not scared. They're calm because they have a plan. And you can have one too. One quick note. Every building is different. So before you start organizing anything, check your building's rules. Some buildings have official emergency plans. Some have property managers who handle this. Every building is different. So take all that good energy and point it at the right people. And if the fear ever feels like too much, if it's keeping you up at night, every night, that's not something to be ashamed of. That's when you reach out to a friend, to a neighbor, to someone you trust. You don't have to carry it alone. Asking for help isn't weakness. It's the smartest thing you can do. So, have you been feeling it too? The news overload? The racing heart? The 2 a.m. scrolling? What helped you? What didn't? Did your building come together? Or are you still carrying it alone? Drop your story in the comments. I genuinely want to hear it, because you're not the only one feeling this, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And here's a little heads up. If you're the one everyone comes to when they're scared, if you're the calm one in the middle of the chaos, the one people look at hoping you know what to do, then you're going to want to see the next video, because that's the other side of this story. How to calm a whole building down when everyone's looking at you. That's the next story.